Let's talk about leadership as it relates to building your startup. So, we're going to cover three big points: the what, the why, and the how, because you need it. And let's just jump right into it. What do I mean when I say leadership? I mean something very specific. It means being willing to do what is necessary, be it lead or follow, for the sake of the community for which you serve. And welcome, that is your startup. That is your co founding team. That is your employees. That is your investors. That is all the people that are stakeholders in your overall success. Being willing to do what is necessary, regardless if you like it, is what it takes often. It is the true sign of a leader that is doing the job right, that inspires the people behind them, and they can get a team, especially early days when the risk is very high, the it's the least stable, and of course it's the least knowledgeable that you all are. You need someone that's willing to do the dirty work, or willing to at least put out that energy that they're willing to do it, so that it motivates everybody else. And the way that I think about this is very simple: a willingness to be above no job and better than no one. And what does that mean? It's very easy in startup land to discount jobs, discount positions, discount responsibilities, discount events, random people, other founders, investors. It's not that there's not good reasons to like have those thoughts and think those things, but it doesn't serve you, and especially doesn't build your reputation, doesn't build your brand internally or externally. Don't think that because you act poorly when the doors are closed with your team and you act nicely when you leave, that your team thinks you're nice. No, your team knows that you're only nice to those that you control or you have influence over or whatever. They don't see a consistency. And in the same way, if you're out there saying that you're better than this job, or this thing isn't worth it, or this is stupid, or that's dumb, you send a signal that you don't value those things. And eventually you're going to need probably some of those things. And if I was someone that had been devalued over and over and over again, or I was on the team that, let's say, devalued HR over and over and over again, is my team going to treat HR when I get them really well? No, they're going to treat them like they're a joke because I've told them that they're a joke. If I see that something needs to be done, like a database needs to be reviewed, and no one else is willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. Not because it's fun, not because it's enjoyable, but I know two things. I must lead by example. So if I'm willing to do it, that means everybody is willing to do it. And two, if I do a good job and I set a good standard, I make it easier to know if that job is being done well. Sometimes it can be incredibly valuable in the early days to do the job yourself first, so that way you understand what you're looking for. Hard to know what a clean, house looks like if you've never cleaned the house, because how are you going to judge? Much the same for your startup. Why do we focus on leadership? Why is that the first thing? Because startups are never an easy process, and most of the jobs aren't that amazing. Most are research. Most are calls you don't want to make. Most are talking to investors that go nowhere. Most are networking events where it's a 2-hour event and you had 10 minutes of value. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's a highly inefficient practice. And that's what building a startup is. It's pretty inefficient, but if it works in a real positive way. So bringing that energy of, I know this is all going to be difficult. I know I'm going to struggle, but I know I'm going to humble myself to do what is necessary so that me and my team can win. Isn't that the type of leader, the type of CEO, the type of founder that you'd want to be on their team as a co-founder, or you'd want to work for them because you're like, man, they are willing to do whatever it takes. I've seen them do everything, and I know that means they're looking out for me and the company, and there's fairness. Like, it just brings the value that you want and lets you operate smoothly. The other reason why is culture develops regardless. You don't get to pick, like, okay, today is the day we start acting right and doing this, and we start reporting in at 7 a.m. and everything's going to be great. It doesn't work like that. What you do from the first interaction to the most recent interaction sets the culture. Whether that's you got more strict, you got more lazy, you were more intense, you were less intense. Maybe you didn't curse in business meetings when you first met your team, and now you do, so it's much more casual. Things ebb and flow in a big way. Making conscious decisions about your leadership style, make it early, because you're setting the standard for the leaders in your business that are going to come later, especially the leaders of employees, the leaders of departments, whatever it might be. Now, how do we do this? One, we really come to appreciate that leadership is top down, right? It's part of that culture point from before. So, what I would want you to think about is, have you ever looked up to an older cousin or an older sibling or someone in a leadership position? Okay, well, empathize with that in a big way and realize that your team, whether or not they say it, feels the exact same way internally at a minimum, even if they never like visually express it. They're looking at you, they're watching you. If you get on Slack at 7 a.m. and start messaging people, not that you expect them to respond because you're not, insane at that early, but you'll see that I bet your team goes from responding to things at 10 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 8:30 while they're in the train on the way in. It starts to set a standard of, oh, that's when the boss starts. And they start to mimic, they start to naturally adapt to the time, the culture, the energy that you bring. Second piece of advice for this of how to kind of implement that leadership is always, I recommend be stricter earlier because you can always be more relaxed. It's really hard to tighten the rope once someone's comfortable. If you don't have designated meeting days and you don't have designated reporting structures or timelines or anything, if you go try and implement those, it becomes really hard at a minimum to get buy-in. But the second is to actually get them to have practice and do it consistently because they didn't have to before. And now you're asking for more. And are you going to pay more? Are you going to give them more? You just get into this weird, what are we going to do? And obviously you can rally everybody together to make it better. But ultimately, the more strict is vague as well. It doesn't mean you're, yelling at everybody, but it means you set a standard and you set a goal. And if someone's late to a meeting, you acknowledge that they're late and you have them show up on time the next time, or you adjust the meeting to be at a better time. You're willing to be flexible. You're doing the things that set that standard of we do things right, we do things properly, we do things straightforward, etc., etc. The last piece is very much recognized. This is all about progress over perfection. First and foremost, because there's no such thing. Second of all, because startups are always about getting better. You want to get better at getting your customer. You want to get better at financing your business on the day to day. You want to get better at reporting, get better at hiring. There's never a finish. There's never a complete. It's always improve on, more up, more to the right, more growth until eventually you sell it. So, in perfect world. So when you're looking at your team, when you're looking at yourself, when you're looking at how can I be a leader and all of these things seem so overwhelming, it's not about you being perfect from day one and it's not about them being perfect from day one, but it's about the mentality and energy that you bring to it so that you can continue to progress and not worry about the perfection.